The Sims 4 took 2 years before they had custom gender settings in the game, and they took 8 years from the launch before they actually had gender neutral pronouns in the game. And what I want to know is how long Paralives is going to take to have it in their game. And since the game launches on December 8th of this year, the only way to look into that right now is the internet. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm answering, will Paralives launch with transgender representation, or will it be added into the game later? Now, first of all, I want to be very clear on what I'm considering to be trans representation in a video game. So what I'm looking for in this life sim genre would be being able to make non-binary characters, which would include being able to have custom pronouns and they/them pronouns, and just anything that would be able to make your character kind of fall in this third gender category where there's not going to be gender language applied to them, including in their relationship to other characters. So that'd be like, it wouldn't be called a sister or a brother, they'd be called a sibling. I'm also looking for gender customization, which would be things like their secondary sex characteristics, so like body hair, their breasts, facial hair, Adam's apples, and all those things being customizable to each character without it having to be tied back to their assigned sex, so being male or female. And then we'd want to have clothing that could be masculine or feminine, and it could work on any frame of a character. And something that I find The Sims doesn't even really do at this point without mods very well would be being able to swap gender within the game, and ultimately being able to have that tie into some sort of gameplay as well. This is like kind of a next level thing. I'm not necessarily saying that the games need to have this in it, outside of mods, but it would be a very nice addition. The Paralives team has actually offered a lot of transparency during their development over on Patreon, their YouTube, their Discord, and on Reddit as well. So I went and I scoured all of these channels looking to see if I could find anything with keywords around gender, LGBTQ stuff, things to do with the Paramaker, which is their tool that they use in order to make characters within the game. Now, my first piece of evidence is actually a survey that went out in September of 2020, which is available to both Patreon members as well as the general public to complete, and had over 5,000 respondents. The team did do a brief recap on what came out of this survey, but it's not actually made public to anybody who's not subscribed to the Patreon. But I wanted to mention it because this shows that the team has been considering what trans and gay players want in the game as early as 5 years ago. Now, on a similar note, there was a post made on Reddit that is available to the public where a developer actually confirms how they plan to do the 3D modeling around gender customizations in the game. So what we can see here is that the Paramaker is going to revolve around a neutral one-base model. This means that the 3D artists are working with one foundation for the characters while also implementing these different body features, such as adding breasts. And then there's a modify option where the sliders are not limited by gender. And for anyone that would be overwhelmed by this complete customization option, there would be pre-made options for people to choose from. They also confirmed that you can change your pair's pronoun in a separate UI that does not impact their body frame or any customization option that'll be chosen. All of this is an absolute dream, knowing that the foundation of the game will not be gendered, which seemed to have been a reason that The Sims 4 gave for why it was so hard for them to start incorporating gender neutral language, because they didn't set the base as being gender neutral. They had the 2 binary options, and therefore rewriting everything on the back end became very complicated for them. So knowing that this game is starting with a gender neutral base, it's likely that they won't come into any further issues with programming or any back end challenges when they start making updates to the game if they wanted to do more gender inclusion to what ends up happening at launch. My next piece of evidence was this character maker preview that came out in December of 2021. Now, this was released on their YouTube and it showed a lot of interesting things, especially around secondary sex characteristics being editable, such as their height, body hair. There's facial hair options that included ones for more feminine looking frames. You can edit the chest size of your characters and their Adam's apple as well. The most recent piece of content that's hinting towards trans representation in Paralives comes from December 2025, and if you're not a member on Patreon, you only got 10 seconds of this clip, which clearly shows the Paramaker where there are 4 gender options visible. One of them says NB, which would be non-binary, and then there's an ellipses hinting that we may have some custom genders under there. Even though it's a short clip, since the game is coming out in December and this was posted in September, it's likely that this is what the Paramaker will look like and that we will launch with this NB option as well as whatever is under the ellipses. And the last thing that I found extremely interesting was another Patreon post in July of 2024 where they actually revealed a number of different options for underwear and bathing suits for paras, which included a functional chest chest binder functionally means that when a character puts this on, their chest will become flattened. It's very interesting because The Sims 4 also had a chest binder that they came out with, but unfortunately it was just a function like any other t-shirt and wouldn't actually flatten the chest of any Sims without using a mod. Another thing I found interesting about this Patreon post was when they were talking about the binder, they applied it to a character they already had and referenced that that character appears in one of their other YouTube videos where they had some live mode content. And this kind of alluded to the idea that this character Sam that was using the chest binder could be a pre-made para that becomes available at launch, which would mean that there's going to be a trans character within the game at launch, not put behind a paywall. The Sims 4 could never. And those are the most concrete evidences of trans representation in Paralives that I've been able to find thus far. I'm very excited to see what comes out on December 8th when the game is released in early access, and then also what they continue to add into the game, as well as what modders are going to be able to come up with. Personally, the top 3 things that I had wanted to see with this game was 1, original characters that are represented in the LGBTQI+ community, which it seems like we're going to be getting. 2, I'm very interested in the idea that paras could be randomly generated as being transgender, so that would include somebody aging up into a teenager and their gender being selected as the 3rd gender option. And 3, I hope there's a really accessible foundation for modders to use in order to incorporate more trans mods into the game. That was definitely my favorite part about The Sims 4. I think that there is going to be a really great opportunity for what Paralives puts into their game. But I think when it comes to things like adding gender dysphoria or adding more like text-based options within the game of how pairs interact with each other around gender topics, I think it's best left to do that with mods personally, because sometimes when you add things into the game that are maybe stressors for people's real lives, it's not the best way to do it. Unless it's optional, which I think mods give a great opportunity to do. And yeah, if you've heard anything else about the representation that's going to be in Paralives, please leave a comment below. Otherwise, I'll be posting more videos about trans and gay representation in Paralives as I learn more about the game and it becomes available to the public. So if you want to find any of those videos, they'll be linked in the playlist here. And that's it for today. If you're subscribed, I'll see you soon with another video.